Those with means or resources might try to leave for safer places, but the lack of transportation would make this nearly impossible. Communities would begin to form factions, and the social fabric that we've worked so hard to create would start to fray. With each passing day, the reality of life without electricity would force people to rethink what's truly important. Basic survival would take precedence, and long-term plans would be put on hold. People would focus on finding food, clean water, and shelter, and they would begin to understand just how fragile the systems we rely on are. But this situation would also lead to an opportunity for growth. As people adjusted to this new life, there would be a return to simpler times, a time when people relied on their resourcefulness and communities to survive. There would be a chance to rediscover skills and strengths that modern life has made us forget. But no matter how people adapted, the world would never be the same. The loss of electricity would be a reminder of just how dependent we've become on technology and how vulnerable we are when that technology disappears. As the months roll on, the situation in a world without electricity would become even more dire. By now, the novelty of a life disconnected from technology would wear off, and people would begin to realize the long-term implications of living in such a drastically altered world. Food supplies would continue to dwindle, and people would be forced to rely on whatever they could grow, hunt, or scavenge. This would lead to the rise of small, self-sustaining communities that would focus on agriculture, bartering, and survival skills. Some people might have learned how to grow their own crops, while others might have turned to hunting or fishing to make ends meet. But the reality is that without electricity, our agricultural systems would break down, making it harder and harder to produce enough food to sustain the population. The lack of electricity would also lead to an energy crisis, with people scrambling to find ways to generate power. Solar panels, wind turbines, and other renewable energy sources would become essential for survival, but not everyone would have access to them. Those who lived in rural areas or had the means to set up off-grid systems might have an advantage, but for most people, power generation would still be an issue. This would be especially challenging for those who live in urban areas, where the infrastructure is designed to rely on a constant flow of electricity. Urban centers without power would become ghost towns as people moved out in search of food, water, and a way to survive. As the world continued to adjust to the new normal, the breakdown of society would take a toll on mental health. People would struggle with the psychological effects of living in a world without the conveniences and comforts of modern life. Anxiety, depression, and despair would become more common, and without the ability to connect with others through technology, many would feel isolated and alone. People might try to organize in small groups for emotional support, but the constant stress of survival would wear people down.